grab yourself a partner because you are going to love what I'm going to show you today. So yes, you will actually need a partner, a human being, as your helper or tool today, but I promise it's worth finding someone who will help you do this because you're absolutely going to love it. So as many of you know, most or actually all of the fascia release techniques here on Mobility Mastery, the YouTube channel and the blog, are based on techniques that I have in my private practice where I use a method called kinetics that I developed with my clients since 2008. And it's a method of compression and movement based fascia release that's actually a lot harder to do well than it looks because we're typically compressing tissue to the bone only, not all the way through to the floor. And then it's the client or the person getting stepped on that goes through a range of motion. And today's technique that I wanted to actually teach you here on YouTube is one of the easiest to learn, and it's also the nicest, meaning it actually feels really good. As most of you know, if you've been with me even a little while and tried any of my techniques here on the channel, they're kind of intense, right? Like talk about, calves or quads or the IT band. Ouch! A lot of them can be really intense, especially if your fascia is unhealthy. And today's technique feels really, really good. So I have one caveat here, which is that most of you are going to love this and most of you are going to think it feels really good. But a few of you might actually hate this one and be like, what's Alicia talking about? This does not feel good at all. And that just means that your fascia in this area is unhealthy, because healthy fascia doesn't hurt when it's compressed. And so this is good data, and I'm gonna come back to this in a minute, because if this happens to be you, if you figure out that this is you, I want you to know what you can actually do about it, and eventually this one will feel good if you can help your fascia get healthy. So what I'm about to teach you is the technique for bottoms of the feet. And unlike most techniques with kinetics, this one doesn't actually involve you, if you are the one getting stepped on, doing any movement or participating in an active way. This is the only technique where your job is simply to relax and enjoy. Okay, so like I said, you're gonna need a partner for this one, and chances are pretty high if you love this one, this partner may become your new BFF. And I want to encourage you to return the favor, because it wouldn't be very good form, right, to ask them to do this to you and have it feel really good and then not actually do it to them too. So I encourage you both to try this and have fun with it. Now, before I show you actually how to do this, and believe it or not, there is strategy to how you step on the bottoms of someone's feet. There are a few safety things I want to talk about, because there are a few of you that shouldn't try this. And I at least want to give you my words of warning before you try it, just in case you happen to fit the criteria. So if you've ever had a cortisone injection, or especially multiple cortisone injections into your plantar fascia for something like plantar fasciitis, or heel pain, or pain on the bottoms of your feet for whatever reason, or if you're actively in a plantar fasciitis scenario where you have pain on the bottoms of your feet, I wouldn't actually recommend this, even though we're stepping on the bottoms of your feet and maybe you've been told your plantar fascia is really tight and that's causing your plantar fasciitis. That's not really been my experience. So if this is you, if you have plantar fasciitis, then I would encourage you to actually go upstream first to your calves and your hamstrings in particular, perhaps adding in some of the perineal fascia or the inside of your calf, and see if you can decrease or diminish or even eliminate the pain that you're feeling on the bottoms of your feet before going into the fascia on the bottoms of your feet. Because what I always say is where the pain is almost never the problem. So if you have pain on the bottoms of your feet, that tissue is really irritated, it's unhappy, and it's not unhappy typically, almost always, because of itself. It's unhappy because other things are pulling on it, irritating it, it's not getting enough blood flow, it can't relax because fascia that's upstream and connected to it is too tight, right? So you want to take care of those upstream issues, decrease or eliminate the pain, and then go check out what the fascia is actually like in the bottom of your foot. And you might actually find that your fascia is surprisingly not that tight after all. And a few of you will have tight fascia on, in the bottoms of your feet. And this would be the scenario where this would not feel very good. So if you try this, and you don't like it because it's really intense or it hurts a lot, it indicates that the fascia on the bottom of your foot is actually really tight and it can't actually absorb mechanical stress anymore. So that mechanical stress of someone kind of stepping on you feels painful instead of pleasant. And so we need to actually rehydrate your fascia before it can absorb that mechanical stress. So if this is you, what I would actually recommend, instead of this technique to get your fascia healthy, because we're not doing a whole lot of compression and shearing here or releasing of fascia, it's more about relaxation at the nervous system level. What I would recommend for you is to use my technique for the bottom of your foot, for that plantar fascia, for the plantar fascia tendon, using a lacrosse ball. So I would do that until that no longer feels painful. And we'll link to that in the description below. And then I would come back and try this again, because eventually this one will feel really, really good. And it will feel kind of like a reward for you to get to that moment where it finally feels good, especially if you've been suffering with something like plantar fasciitis, and maybe you also have tight fascia on the bottoms of your feet. Now, the other scenario where you could still try this, but I just want to give a word of caution here before we dive in with the actual technique, is if you have really stiff ankles or really high arches. You just want to be a little bit cautious here and aware, and your partner needs to be aware, because when you get into the position, which I'm going to show you in just a moment, you want to make sure that the heels can fall out and the ankles can stay relaxed. And some people, more often men than women, their heels will be off the ground and there will be a lot of space, actually a lot of air, between the mat or the floor and their ankle, the top of their ankle. Or the top of the foot. So you want to just be cautious, because as someone's stepping on your feet, if you're kind of hanging out in the air, it can stress out the ankle joint, and it can stress out, you might not know that it shouldn't feel this way, but your partner might actually be rolling your feet outwards in a way that your ankles really don't like, and that could put them in a compromising position. So you just want to be aware of this. You could still certainly try it, and I would encourage absolutely all of you to practice just communicating with your partner through the whole thing. If you do that, then nothing bad's really going to happen. And when in doubt, don't. All right, so you're going to need a chair just to balance with here, and hopefully some kind of yoga mat or squishy mat for the person getting stepped on to lay on. So I'm going to assume that you're both going to try this. So the person laying down on the ground, you're just going to be face down, relaxed, and then your partner, the one stepping, I want you to make sure that their heels are falling outward and their feet look really relaxed. So this actually means the toes kind of come in towards each other. You don't want the legs and the feet in a completely straight line where the toes are pointed downward. That's going to put the ankle in a compromising position. So you want to make sure the heels are falling outward with the ankles and the feet are totally relaxed. And then you're actually going to be stepping backwards onto the bottoms of the feet of your partner if you are the one stepping. And you're just going to use that chair to balance with. So you want to make sure not to lean on it too much, obviously. I don't want you falling over. And then you are using mostly your heel and some of your arch to step on their foot. And the places that are up for grabs here, as far as what territory you step on their foot, is going to be comprised mostly of the middle of their foot. So everything from about the ball of the foot outward a bit, but not all the way to the edge, and then that arch area towards the heel. And as soon as you hit a slope where it gets difficult to step anymore, you stop. You don't want to actually step on somebody's heel. So you're not trying to work your way all the way up to the heel. And you also want to make sure to avoid stepping directly on the big toe joint. You can step kind of directly right near and around that big toe joint. That might actually feel really good, the ball of the foot, right? And then you don't want to step with a lot of weight directly onto the toes themselves with your heel without, it might feel good to them, but you want to check in. So you're not trying to crack any toes here or come straight down onto just the toes themselves. But everything else is kind of up for grabs. And then you just want to make sure to check in with your partner. So you're going to kind of almost think about it like kneading them like a cat would kind of step into you, push into you a little bit, but then come off immediately. And you want to make sure not to sink fully into them with your full body weight. So you're gonna just add a little bit of weight to one foot and be light on the other foot, and then add a little bit of weight to the other foot and lift off with the other one. So this is how I like to do it. So I'm not on both feet with equal weight the whole time. I like actually going from left foot to right foot. And then I like angling my foot different directions because you're gonna get a different sensation. The person getting stepped on is going to feel different things depending on the angle that you're actually stepping on them. So you can work your way from totally matching their foot with your foot, them being parallel, to almost being perpendicular, where your heel is really going into their arch and your toes are going towards the outside of their foot. And if somebody has really tight arches, this would be a great place to actually pause and do some light just compression going back and forth. You want to make sure that they're okay with it, that you're not sending them over the edge of intensity. But this can help relax the plantar tendon a little bit, the plantar fascia tendon down there, if you find that it's really tight. And then I like to work my way around, not staying on any one spot for a really long time. And that just tends to feel really good when you go from one spot to the next and you circle back around and you kind of cover the whole territory for quite a while. And once you establish a connection with your partner about this and about their body and what the bottoms of their feet like, and you're kind of talking to each other, you might add more weight. You might stay on one spot a little bit longer than other spots. So if you're the person getting stepped on, I always encourage you to talk to your partner and say, hey, can you stop right there? That feels really good. And then, or you might say, hey, can you go up a little bit or down a little bit or over to the side? And you'll just learn about each other's bodies and feet, because actually feet are different, even though we have the same bones, usually the same amount of bones, and we're built, kind of the same as humans. We have different shaped feet. So some people are going to feel different things depending, right, on sports and lifestyle and structure and how tall they are. So just get to know each other. And then I want you to also realize that this could change over time. So what feels good today might not feel good tomorrow or next week, or what hurts today might actually feel really good next week. So if you do find a spot that hurts right now, just realize that, you can come back around and make sure, is it that intense? The fifth time we're trying this out. So I like to always circle back around and check back in and not assume anything, and just see what's true today. So that's really it. And then of course you'll want to switch. But I want to give you just a few pointers as far as how often to do this, how long to stay on here, because usually with fascia release, right, I'm giving you my guidelines. And if you have downloaded my beginner's guide to fascia release, then you might be thinking to yourself, Alicia, should I be staying on one spot 30 to 40 seconds? And, are we trying to compress and shear anything? And if you haven't grabbed my beginner's guide to fascia release, then I suggest you do that below. It's just got some really helpful tips for guidelines for fascia release, no matter what body part you're on. So we'll link to that below as well in the description below this video. But for this technique, you could stay on the bottoms of the feet here as long as it feels good to your partner for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes if you want them to fall in love with you and go to sleep. There are no rules really for this one other than please communicate to each other and make sure it feels good. So the person getting stepped on, if you find yourself feeling a little intensity, you just want to pay attention to your nervous system. So if you are tensing up and you are telling yourself, Alicia said this was supposed to feel good, I'm trying to enjoy it, it doesn't feel that good, I'm not sure about this, then ask your partner to back off the weight, or go to the other technique I suggested for the bottom of the foot with a lacrosse ball, and then come back to this later. So as long as it feels good and you feel relaxed, like a lot of people get up from this actually afterwards, the people who love it, and they're just like, oh my God, I could go to sleep right now. They kind of look like they just took a really good power nap. So I don't necessarily suggest doing this right before, say, a big sporting event or a business meeting or anything. This might be a great one to do right before bed if you have a hard time sleeping. This may actually help you with sleep. So the reason this one feels really good, and the reason the whole purpose of this one is to relax, is because we have a ton of nerve endings on the bottoms of our feet. And this is, indicative of why reflexology is a thing, right? But we just have a lot of points of contact and communication. This is where we get a lot of our proprioceptive data when we're walking for gait, right? So when we're contacting all those nerve endings, if we can relax through it, it creates a systemic full body nervous system relaxation response. So you can do this one as long as you want and as often as you want, and I hope you love it. So please share with me your results below. Tell me about your partner. Did you find someone good to do this with? I hope you can find somebody, because this one just feels, I just think we should do this for each other every day. So I'd love to hear of your experience. Please comment below. I can't wait to hear about it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.